Hello and welcome to Gavra Racing's GT3 series here at Oulton Park. I am Cypher Knight 77 and today will be a solo broadcast as these guys go around this incredibly interesting track. It's located in Great Britain. So we hope to see another good round of racing from these guys. Unfortunately, my partner in crime, Dutch Musa, is not here. Supposedly stuck in that Dutch traffic. I wouldn't really know what traffic is like, but you know, just saying. But once again, these guys will try to put on the best show that they can, and we'll see just how well they do at this incredibly small track. Last week, it was this man Kaz who took it home for Audi for their second win on the season at Rapuna Park. And so Audi are looking to make it 3 for 3 for season opening here today as well. Another driver, Flip, who also was able to score one of his first podiums of the season last week. He's looking to make another repeat performance, although he's got a little bit of a task ahead of him. I'll inform you of that a little bit later. Some other notable... Snaker kind of gets caught there. I was going to say Snaker is back this week in the Nissan. He and Toby will once again be trying to get that Nissan into good point standings. Daza, one of the few drivers yet to have a decent footing, but like I said, it is only the third race of the season, so anything can happen at this point in time. But some of the bigger stories heading into this race include a penalty for Flip for instance occurred in the last race, so he will be missing out on practice and qualifying times here at Oulton Park. I believe Kev and Toby also have practice and qualifying penalties that will set them back in their runs. So with the roughly full field this week, it'll be very difficult for them to gain any sort of positions, especially the track speeds for itself. Galavan also looking to keep up his momentum of decent strings of races together, looking to get back onto the podium for the first time this season. Of course, Hondak's always fast as usual, and he's currently sitting first in the practice standings with a 1:33.5. Hondak's looking to once again take the fight to the Mercedes drivers. The other Mercedes of Kev, like I said, in the pits for now. Morse also looking to put in another good performance for McLaren today. Johnny is back in the second McLaren to hopefully boost that team's standing and points this race. Judy also looking for another solid performance here from Rapuna. Currently Snaker sitting third in standings, although Mike boosts himself up into fourth place. Mike, another one of those drivers that needs a good rebound from Rapuna. But hello and welcome to everyone who has joined us here in the chat. Bit of a late stream after getting just some final details in touch, but we are here and we will bring you all the action as Mike is just going rally crossing over the hills there. He's very careful coming back on track. Should mention though that this is the full Oulton Park track, so they will be going around this turn right there through sector 2, and they will have to deal with this very treacherous turn. They have to brake really late, make sure to get the car slid in and not hit that inside wall barrier. Just ahead of them, I think that was K-Morse who just went off there. It's very easy for these cars to light up their rear tires and take a small spin. Saw that plenty last week at Rapuna, but practice is over and currently sits Hondax in the first position with Dalavan in second, 2 tenths behind, then followed by Snaker in third, Yubi running in fourth, and Mike in fifth. said previously, all these guys you see down here from 12th to 15th are not allowed to practice due to penalties incurred at Lacuna. And Flip, Kevin, Toby have half qualifying suspensions. I believe Flip has a whole qualifying suspension, so he will most likely be starting at the back of the grid today. The drivers across the line. Jukebox wasn't sure if he was going to be racing this week, but it looks like he is strapped into that Bentley to once again put that car into good points positions, which is always good to you know, keep being here every week. That'll accumulate you a lot of good points. Him and Snaker are the last across the line to round off this practice session. In terms of weather, we are looking at dry and sunny conditions. I know quite rare for Britain, but as practice is over, it is Hondax, Naker, and Dalavan your top three, forming Mercedes, Nissan, and Cadillac. Alright, well, it'll be very interesting to see which of the manufacturers this week is going to take the top spot in qualifying. We've seen the Ginettas do some good work in qualifying, as well as the Mercedes guys. It looks like Grazy is one of the first out there, with both the Mercedes of Mike and Hondax out there as well. So they're looking to get out there on track and get their laps set in before everyone else. Both of the Mercedes pretty much rounding out 1-2 in terms of those who have come off of pit lane. Joe is out, as well as Daza, excuse me. That was another driver looking to get a decent footing. It has not been a good starting races for the Porsche drivers. They really need to start getting in just those clean performances from a weekly basis now. But it'll be very interesting to see, as you can really see, the track is very not wide. So there'll be a lot of perhaps invalidated lap times, a lot of drivers getting in the way of each other. Obviously no one wishes to do such things intentionally, but it's a very likely possibility at a track like this. It happened to some degree at Lacuna, and I believe it will most likely happen here as well. But we'll go on board with Mike to see the whole of this Oulton Park track. It's a very unique track in its own right as he comes across the start-finish line. Have to get the car slowed down here. It's very easy to sort of run wide there on the curve after turn one. Then you have to set yourself up for a bit of a blind right and then a slightly downhill left-hander. Very hard to get the car turned in for turn three, but then you have this sort of longish straight. It'll definitely showcase a bit of the top speed of some of the cars here. You set yourself up for a mostly flat left-hander, taking in fourth gear, very risky. Then stuff up for the whole turn there. Then set yourself up. Sorry. Ooh, as Mike just gets it all wrong there. Very unfortunate there. Sorry, as my finding with my own mic. Apologies for that. That was my own mic. But as you can clearly see, Mike just not getting it the whole track right there is mechanical issues. What are you gonna do? I'm not even in the car and I'm having mechanical issues. But Hondax, he was behind Mike, so he will set the first official time of the session, which will be a 1:34.1. So definitely a lot of improved times, as you can definitely get into the 133s here if you're quick enough. Look at the penalties just in a moment here. Razy going second, 135.1, so a whole second off the pace. More guys coming across. I believe that's Joe as well with a 136.4. Daza across the line with UV going 137. Daza 141. Excuse me. That's Johnny who goes the fastest of all with a 133.7. Very fast from the McLaren driver in his attempt there. Bucks among the last drivers out to start a lap. Snaker going only 7th. Toby going 4th. And this one pretty good. He's always done pretty decently in qualifying, just hasn't had the same luck in the race. Dalavan only 5th with a 134.9. Kaz currently 3rd, 134.1. So Mike, he's back out there again to try another time around, although half of qualifying is already over. Kev and Flip still in the pits for their respective penalties. And you can see here, Jukebox has a 2 grid place penalty for perhaps maybe just something happening out of pit road, but that'll be a very harsh penalty that could knock him out of the top 10. He does not get a good qualifying lap there. Johnny going 8/10 quicker, so very good from him going into the final sector. Interesting to see if he can hold it together in the final turn, curving all the way down to second gear, very much on the curb there. It's actually able to keep it together there and not get any sort of spin. Johnny is across the line, going to set a 132.8, the fastest time of the session. Snaker also going second, 133.6, but then gets toppled by Kaz, who goes 133.6 himself. Razy is up to 5th with a 134.1. Ooh, UV's in the grass, possibly letting some guys go. Actually, UV and the Porsche guys over there. Dalavan is up to 3rd now with a 133.6. So a lot of 133.6s are being put there. A very close contested grid with the 134s pretty much going from 6th through 9th there actually. So still plenty of time to make up as Kev is now allowed to start his qualifying attempt. Timor set in a representative time. There's quite a... Actually, we'll get to that race. He's across the line. He goes up to 5th. I was going to say there's a little bit of traffic there in the second sector. A lot of these guys kind of bunched up there to give each other some room. Now Galavan stepped in missing just in front of him. Galavan is across the line, is not faster than his lap. Johnny is currently in. Flip has a qualifying penalty from the last race, so he is not allowed to qualify for this race. Like to know more, the information's in the GT3 Discord chat. Currently sitting in second, good qualifying run for him, although still needs to find a couple more tenths to displace Johnny. Johnny is in the pits. I wonder if he'll go back out one more time for another attempt. His teammate K-Morse across the line, still only in 6th, as we actually have a huge bundle of cars here. This Hondax, I believe, oh, that's Dalavan behind, so that is UV ahead of Hondax. Hondax gets a little slide there. It's Daza in the Porsche behind as well. These guys likely coming across to start their final laps. As if you're not out now, you're likely not to get in a lap. So Johnny is out, and Hondax with a slight spin. I don't know if he put it into the wall there. Manages to collect it. But yes, Johnny, Razy, Joe, and Jukebox are seemingly out of qualifying. So with that penalty, Jukebox will likely start 14th. See where Kev is up. Hondax to start his final lap. He's currently sitting 8th, so pretty far back. It's a little bit wide on the curve there. Kev behind, I believe, the Nissan of Toby. It's both of them slowing down. Actually waiting to see what the other does. Hondax taking that turn in a impressive 5th gear. It's very risky to go through that corner with anything except 4th, although he's still 5/10 down on his lap. Very aggressive to that quick left-right chicane. Sets himself up there. You can just hear the gear shifts happening very quickly for Hondax, very aggressive with his gear ratios. As Paz and Dalavan have both decided to call it quits with Snaker as well, so they sit 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Hondax currently 3/10 up. It is enough to get him into 6th, but won't be enough to get him out of the midfield as it stands. Hondax across the line. Kev also not sending in a good time as Hondax runs very wide on the last lap. And all that progress was for naught, as he is out of qualifying. Toby, a little bit of troubles himself. That's Kev behind him. Kev, getting a little bit wide, and that is Kev also out of qualifying with that mistake. So he will start a very disappointing 14th. UV is out as well. Toby's still on the track. Toby, the only driver left to still set in a representative time. And with that, everyone is more or less set in place except for Toby. Which I'm not sure if this is a faster time or not, but he'll complete it anyways. There you have it. That is qualifying for Oulton Park done and dusted. And it is Johnny with the surprise qualifying position. He puts that McLaren on pole position, followed by Mike and Kaz, your current points leader, in 3rd place. Dalavan, Snaker, K-Morse, Razy, Hondax, Toby, and Joe round out your top 10, followed by UV, Daza, Jukebox, Kev, and Flip. Jukebox will start 15th with this penalty, so Flip will start 14th, despite not putting in a qualifying time. So with that, we have a very interesting race, as it looks to be the McLaren with a very dominant performance today. K-Morse also doing very well. Nissan's relatively in the mid-pack, and Hondax also very far down the pack as well. Of course, after the drivers will have to remember to make sure that they put the exact estimate of fuel in their cars to make sure to not incur any sort of penalty there as well. I believe the limit is 70 liters, although sometimes we see 69, although that might just be a car by car basis. But either way, thank you to everyone who has joined us here for another GT3 race. Of course, I'm excited. I hope you're all excited to see these guys go around this very small track. Alrighty then. Alright, we are here on the grid for Oulton Park. And we will go down the field. As you can see it right there, it is Johnny and Mike in row 1. So the McLaren on their first pole of the season. We'll see if they can turn it into a W today. Then followed by Kaz and Dalavan in row 2, Audi and Cadillac. Row 3, it is Dalavan and Snaker. Yeah, excuse me, although, actually, let me check something. Okay. So it is a little bit strange there, yeah. So Snaker in the Nissan there, Dalavan in the Cadillac. Row 4 is K-Morse and Razy. K-Morse in the other McLaren and Razy in the first Ginetta. They'll be looking to rebound after Rapuna as well. I'm doing this wrong again. My God. I apologize for the unprofessionalism, but I swear these guys are lined up weirdly. Oh, my. Row 5 is Toby and Joe in the Mercedes and the... Oh my God, this is really messing with my head. I'm not the only one who sees this right. Continuing, we'll just do it number by number then. In 11th is UV starting there. 12th is Daza. 13th is Kev. 14th is Flip. And 15th is Jukebox. And in case you're wondering, Johnny is the normal driver for the McLaren. But he just was not here, replaced by Richard last week. But we go to 4 red lights despite my horrible race win intro. And we are off here at Oulton Park. As you can see, that is Honda, who gets a very good start on the second McLaren. And already in the back, there's quite a bit of contact. Even more contact as one of the Audis gets pushed onto the grass there. Although they managed to keep it all together into turn 1. Meanwhile, up front, it is still Johnny from Mike, followed by Dalavan and Kaz in the Audi, and then Snaker in the Nissan there. Still keeping it good together through turns 2 and 3, and even more in the contact. That is Flip and Daza around, once again like in Rapuna Park. But continuing on, ooh, there was one car off, that's Kaz, their points leader, off there through turn 4. Have to be careful rejoining the track. He's back without too much issue there. Again, some sort of mere accidents like what happened at Rapuna as they now go through the right-left chicane. Have to be very careful to go through there. That's Hondax looking onto the back of the first Ginetta of Razy. Just kind of shuts the door. Hondax looking down the inside of Razy. Just to keep it very close. Very good side-by-side action. Razy does hold out there. Meanwhile, now Dalavan keeping up the pressure on Mike. Mike had a really good race last week, just was not able to put it all together. Dalavan looking to sort of steal the spotlight just a little bit. Everyone else managing to get through. Ooh, as I say that, Toby very close in for the incident with UV there. Kev also getting around up into 9th and 10th. Kaz going pretty far deep. That's Kev's teammate, also starting very far back. Toby still not able to get back under traction as well as the Audi can, so he falls back down to 11th. Further up ahead, we have this battle for third as Snaker keeps up the pressure on Dalavan, although Razy's keeping up the pressure on Snaker. Snaker in the Nissan going a little bit wide. That allows the Ginetta to close in on the inside. Have to be very careful as it goes side by side to the very fast left-hander. Oh, as Snaker gets on the grass a little bit and he slides. Oh, and just up ahead, that is Hondax hard into the wall. Hondax, I believe, got pushed by... I'm not sure who that was. I have to look back, but that is very unfortunate as Hondax suffers major damage. Hondax is one of the contenders for this race. Well, his teammate Mike still in second. Toby, I believe, was also able to... Snaker was able to gather it up quickly too, but now Mike putting back the pressure on Johnny. Now this has become a 4-car battle for the lead. You know, further down the field, Kaz and Kev. Ooh, as there's slight contact with the Audi, yes, excuse me, and the Bentley sideways. In the distance, you can see Snaker going off wide, and that is in fact the Bentley of Joe as Daza takes evasive action. Flip catching up as well. So that was the Audi of Kev Tennell spinning there along with the Bentley of Joe. We're not really sure what happened there. The Kaz now up into 8th. Jukebox in the first Bentley now challenging for 7th place. You see just there in the background, that is Kev also coming back on the inside of K-Morse. So Kev back up into 9th place. And in this group is Toby, as that is Hondax, excuse me, coming into the pits there for his damage sustained earlier in the lap. A lot of action right off front. I will have to go back in the replay to see who Hondax made contact with, but it looks like he got absolutely shoved as both of the Audis go side by side. This is going to be quite treacherous. Kev has the inside line pass, lets him have it. Of course, both the Audi drivers looking to hold on to their top spot positions so far. Meanwhile, currently up front, it is still Johnny leading the front of the pack. McLaren, Mercedes, Cadillac, and Ginetta, and you can see just there in the distance that is the second Cadillac of UV closing in 5th place. Jukebox with a very nice start. He is up to 7th. He's following behind Toby in the Nissan there, but they're being hampered by the Audi of Kev, who's leading his teammate with him there. Looks kind of vulnerable. Kev could maybe make an impromptu move here. Passing will be very difficult for these guys. But Kev gets a really good run off the corner. He's got the momentum. Does he decide to make the move on Jukebox? No, he does not. Just behind, K-Morse getting attacked by the other Nissan there of Snaker, who makes a very valiant dive, and he is up there. UV now up into 4th place, as that is Johnny. Johnny has spun into turn 1. The McLaren, who was leading this race, has spun off and is now down to 5th place. Real unfortunate there for him. This now puts Mike into the leader's position, as Jukebox now looking for the attack on Toby. And Kev, here goes Kev. He's coming down to the inside of Jukebox side by side. Oh, there's contact! Jukebox is pushed off wide. Heavy contact into the tire barrier. And that just was not going to work. Very hard impact by the Bentley. Let's see if he can continue on there. Meanwhile, up front, Razy now currently in the top 3, facing off with Dalavan and Mike. Dalavan looking a little bit vulnerable, though, in the early stages of this race. As Razy's actually able to come through with a very impressive start. A much better improvement than what happened at Lacuna, but we'll see if he can continue the pressure as it stands. Meanwhile, now it is Toby and Kev going head-to-head. He's actually further down the grid. We have Snaker and Noyens also going at it, as well as K-Morse, Joe, and Flip, who are trekking behind. Joe actually making a move on the McLaren to get inside the top 10. And that is Joe now in the lead Bentley, facing the second McLaren. In the 10th place, K-Morse still losing spots. Hasn't been able to recover. Johnny now under heavy pressure from Razy here. Which actually, now that I think about it, yeah, Razy was up in the 3rd place, so Razy has had an incident and is now fallen behind Johnny. Which now puts both Cadillac drivers into the top 10. Or, not the top 10, top 3, as Mike has now spun around from the lead of this race. Got to be careful coming back on the track. He does come back, and with the lead Mercedes driver out, it is now UV and Dalavan, who now sit 1-2 for Cadillac here at Oulton Park. Not really sure what happened. Well, Mike got it all wrong there, and I don't think he has any damage though. Meanwhile, there in the background, it is Kev on the inside of Toby. Audi versus Nissan. It looks like Toby's not going to put too much of a fight. Kev is back up into 6th place. Further down the field is Flip and Joe, who have left K-Morse. K-Morse falling down to 12th. And Daza's, lowly 13th. Hondax, who pitted, is now back in the 14th. And Jukebox, who now is in the pits, is falling all the way down to 15th. And now we have this big pack brewing, as now Toby hasn't really been faster than the drivers around him, which will make it very difficult for Annoyance to overtake. Kev was actually able to make the overtake, and he's now putting in some really fast times. As K-Morse is now into the pits, so trouble for the second McLaren driver there, as Annoyance attempts a really desperate move around the outside, makes it stick, although I don't think Toby was putting up too much of a challenge, although he taps his Nissan teammate of Snaker there into the wall there, and that was just real unfortunate. I think Toby was slowing up, and Snaker had nowhere to go but to run into the back of him. Now this elevates Joe and Johnny into 7th and 8th. So, ooh, Toby looks like he has a real problem with this car now. Practically limping that thing back around, probably to pit. Both Joe and Johnny get back around him. I was going to say, Johnny is still continuously losing places even after he was leading some laps, as now both of the Ginetta drivers of Flip and Race is still falling down the field. I must have missed what happened to him, because now Flip is ahead of his Ginetta teammate there. Now with Flip leading in the Ginettas, they will both get around Toby. Likely we'll see if he has to pit, but further up there, that is Joe battling Johnny for 6th place. Very clean move from the Bentley, and he is ahead of the McLaren now. Toby gets to keep it on the track, so maybe the damage is manageable. Oh, Toby going very far deep, just barely avoiding Johnny. And that has allowed both the Ginettas of Razy and Flip to capitalize on it. Although I don't think they'd rather be fighting each other. We've seen how that ended for the Nissan drivers. Now that we have a moment to breathe, UV has a 2-second time penalty, K-Morse with a 10-second time penalty. So we'll have to keep that in mind. Dalavan, who inherited the lead after Mike's spin, has been running away with it now. Yuvi's still keeping a decent position in 2nd, and Mike is still in 3rd. Kev, who now has some clean air, can put in some really good times, use it into 4th, and Kaz now in 5th behind. Meanwhile, this fight for 6th intensifies as Joe continues to defend from Johnny and McLaren. Both the Ginettas looking for an opportunity, though, as well. So they gotta be really careful. But as it currently stands, it is a Cadillac 1-2 followed by Mercedes, then an Audi 4-5. Both, Kaz is leading the championship, so this would kind of hurt him, especially if Dalavan can capitalize on the win today. But there's still plenty of time left. Oh, that's Flip who goes very far wide there, and that allows Razy to bypass him, although Razy looks to make a drastic jump to the pits. So I wonder what that's all about. Razy may be looking to get out of traffic, kind of the same strategy that Flip pulled last week to some success. So we'll see how that works out for him. He will come out in 12th, far behind the rest of the grid, but he will be able to run laps of his own. So we'll see if this strategy works out for him. Meanwhile, further up the grid, Mike has caught back up to Yuvi. Oh, as there's a instant further down the grid, I believe that was Johnny again, who had a mistake there. So now Flip is catching back up, and that is Toby in the first Nissan also catching up as well. Now with just 13 minutes in, the field is starting to stabilize. As Jukebox is our first DNF, he finished 15th after his very heavy contact into the tire barrier wall. Razy is out. We will immediately have the McLaren of K-Morse to deal with on pit exit. He's also got Hondax behind him as well. Hondax has technically pitted too, so both of them can go to the end, but they will have a slight bit of traffic to deal with. In fact, this could be very interesting if Razy and Hondax both battle, even though they have to get back up the grid. I'm not sure if Juke disconnected. I have to catch with him, but ooh, further up the field. Oh, that's Kaz who goes very far wide. Thankfully doesn't hit the same barrier that a few other drivers before him have, but that was very close, and now Kaz is further down the field. He was keeping some distance, but just had a minor incident there. And ooh, also further down the field, that is Toby in the second Nissan, who spins just before the right-hander. It looks like he also has major damage, possibly contact with that tire wall. So Daza getting inside the top 10. Not really sure if he made contact with anyone, but that Nissan is heavily injured. Now, the number of eligible contenders for this race starts to dwindle just a little bit, as Joe has a minor incident there with the curbs. This will allow Johnny to catch back up in the McLaren behind him. Oh, is right ahead of him. That is Kev Sinel. Kev had a small issue there. He slowed up quite a bit, possibly getting caught up on the curb. So both Audis having an issue here. Kev is now down into 7th place. And Joe and Johnny now up into 5th and 6th. We're not really sure what happened with Kev. He just sort of stopped, maybe for a penalty of some sort, or had a small incident. But now he is fighting Flip for 7th place. This does elevate Kaz into 4th place now. As Toby is now in the pits for his accumulated damage. Kev gonna get back up on the grid. Despite all the incidents, these guys are still very much close together. See, that is Johnny just ahead. And they're actually not too far from Kaz after that mistake. So both the Bentley and McLaren having phenomenal days, all things considered, if they can keep this up. While further up the field, it is UV still defending from Mike, who's closing in. UV still with that 2-second time penalty, so Mike is technically de facto second as it stands. Ooh, as Johnny had an incident of his own, is into the wall. Johnny is in the wall in Sector 3. So the day that looked like it was going to start off really good for the McLaren has now gotten even worse. He is now down to 9th. Actually, might not have even hit the wall, just kind of spun it. But even still, now this puts Flip into the hot seat in 6th. As Joe continues his catch of Kaz. Meanwhile, UV and Mike battle's getting even closer now. Snaker also elevated up into 7th after that incident. So let's see just how Mike can close in on UV. Will he be able to make something happen here? As Dalavan continues his trek, he is now 11 seconds off of his teammate, so if Mike wants a chance to catch up, then he will definitely need to get around Mike as quickly as possible. Oh, as both Mike and Yubi go very far wide, and that is Mike into the gravel and actually hits the wall with the back of the Mercedes. Manages to collect it, but still, that was quite a decent hit there. We'll see if that knocked anything inside that Mercedes car. But this just opens up the gap to Dalavan even more, as now Joe is still closing onto the back of Kaz, who might have a little bit of damage actually. Either that or his Audi just might not be giving him the speed that he needs right now. Of course, we still have to keep in mind Razy and Hondax, who are by no means out of this race despite being very far down the grid. They have pitted, so they can do what Flip did last race and sort of keep up their momentum without really fighting in the field. Actually, UV has had another issue because Mike is caught right back up to him. Meanwhile, Joe also coming back really close on the back of Kaz. Joe looks for a slight move around the outside, can't really get anything done. You have two simultaneous battles going on at the same time, one for second and one for fourth. Had an incident the last time he battled with Yubi. We'll see how it plays out this time as Yubi goes very far wide actually. This could leave the door open for Mike. So gains some momentum there. Is Yubi gonna let him go through? Not quite. Mike goes very far deep, almost goes into the grass again. Could have been very treacherous there if he didn't slow the car down quick enough. That is Flip also closing in on the back of these two should something happen, as well as Snaker just behind there. Kev is currently sitting in 8th after his accident. So all those guys still having a chance to get into the top 5. Pretty far on the curb there. Was actually able to keep the momentum up. Is continuing to set his sights on the Bentley. Flip having not made any qualifying or practice laps here. So it's still remarkable that he's sitting in 6th after starting all the way back in 14th anyways. Now 20 minutes have gone by, so these guys will start to think about pit stops. Mike once again looking near the back of Yubi. If anything, this just helps Dalavan get away because now the gap has opened up to 20 seconds. Mike getting ever more impatient to pass the Cadillac, because he knows he'll beat him on time, but he does have a chance to maybe get Dalavan. He swipes a little bit to the outside to see if there is an opening. There is none to be found just yet. Joe on the defensive now from Flip, who looks to make a move around the outside. Bentley and Janetta, pretty much the biggest and smallest cars here. Joe, good defensive work there to hold him at bay, but this allows Snaker to come back in, as now that is the Audi of Kaz, deciding he doesn't want to do any more battling and instead comes into the pits. Yubi get a pretty bad run there off of turn 2. Will this allow Mike to make a move? No, he decides better of it. Flip as well will decide to make the move on Joe. He does decide to thread the needle. Oh, as he goes very far and deep, has to be careful of that tire wall. Oh, it's just ahead of him. That was Snaker, or no, excuse me, Toby, who was off there. I thought that was Snaker, but Snaker actually goes on by for 5th place. Flip thankfully keeps it out of the wall, but he is now down into 6th and is now susceptible to Kev. So now Snaker up into 5th place, a good recovery from, it's been an up and down day for Nissans today. So now he can make an attempt on Joe as well. But Kaz comes out behind Hondax and Razy, so that is very important, because both Hondax and Razy have pitted and they are going to the end. So keep them in the back of your mind going forward, and with Kaz coming out behind them, this means that he is going to lose approximately 2 places by the end of this pit stop sequence. Should mention the current leader, Dalavan, is in Sector 2, while you can just see the huge gap that he has from his teammate and Mike. As the gap is sort of stabilized around 20 seconds. Snaker is now very close to Joe. He's gonna try to make a move like Flip did. No, he decides to keep his checkers in, although Joe is now on the grass as well, and that allows Snaker to go around the outside. And so that is Snaker up into 4th place, although further down the field, that is Johnny into the pits now. Oh, and he's lost his spoiler too. So Johnny has had an incident there which lost him his spoiler. Joe is now down to 5th place. He's managed to keep it on the track though. Hasn't hit anything, but now is very susceptible to flip. While Kev is the car behind this train. If anything, he needs to start putting in those laps that he was doing earlier on in the session. He wants to get back up near the front. Meanwhile, this fight still continues with 35 minutes left on the clock. Mike and Yubi. To give credit to Yubi, is actually doing a really good job here to keep Mike at bay. If anything, they're actually not doing too bad in terms of lap times. They were initially losing time, but now they're actually starting to gain as Dalavan hits some lap traffic. Mike, looking to thread the needle, thinks better of it. Doesn't want an incident there. Further down the field. Flip's still not able or close enough to Joe. As actually, both Mike and Toby coming up on some lap traffic. I believe that's Toby just ahead of them. Or no, excuse me, that's K-Morse. Or maybe Johnny. Actually, both of them are thirds, fairly far down. It's really unfortunate for them. Ooh, as Yubi goes very deep. This allows Mike the opening on the outside. While Yubi's still able to defend. Get it. Meanwhile, another important fight is happening. This is Daza and Razy. Razy's still looking to gain as much speed as possible, so he needs to get around Daza as quick as possible. Daza doing everything he can to keep it inside the top 10, although this isn't the first time that Razy has had a run-in with a Porsche driver this series. You'll also have to keep in mind the gap between him and Hondax. He's going to try to make a move down there. Ooh, slight contact with the Porsche of Daza. But now this has allowed Hondax to really catch up to Razy. Although with that incident from Daza, Razy is able to get to the inside around the Porsche. And that is a very critical move for Razy's race. As he is still very much in this. It'll be up to Hondax to also overtake the Porsches. Daza gets very loose there, actually causes Hondax to get loose as well, and that is Hondax in the wall, as well as the Porsche of Daza. So that is a very unfortunate scenario for the Mercedes driver, as now this has gone from really bad to worse for him. It looked like he had an opportunity to regain some more spots, but with his incident, he is most likely down and out of this race, as now Joe is into the pits for the Bentley for his scheduled stop of the day. And Daza is also in as well. This has allowed both Flip and Kev to start their fight. It's actually, I wonder if there was an incident with Flip, because Kev was actually behind him. So somehow Kev was able to pass Flip during that segment that we were away. Joe is out of the pits now, rejoins ahead of Hondax. But the important thing is that Razy is all the way up here, and this is your real de facto winner when it comes to the current pit strategy. Because it depends where everyone comes out relative to Razy. So Joe might be the second best of pitters. Ooh, as I say that, he is in the gravel there. He has to let both the Cadillac and the Mercedes go by. He's trying to regain his spots. Hondax is in. Johnny is in again, I believe. We know why Hondax is in. Johnny might have had a second instinct. But Joe finally able to recollect and get back on the gas. Now this is Flip and Kev fighting for de facto 5th. I know this is all very difficult to keep up with, so I'll explain it as best as I can when this all cycles through. But just keep your eyes where everyone is relative to Razy, because he is the first out of the pits and not on the current pit strategy. So everyone who pits is relocating their time towards Razy, which is important, because Razy is setting in really fast times, and depending on where Dalavan comes out of the pits, this could be a very interesting race to go by. Oh, as Kev gets it all wrong, and he is in the wall there for the Audi a second time as well. So another spin for the Audi driver. And that allows Flip into 5th place. We'll see if that damage hampers that Audi, although I suspect it's not driving too well. And that indeed prompts Kevsinel into the pits, so very unfortunate. Ooh, even more contact coming into the pits, so goodbye race winner, having to make an emergency stop there, as Mike has indeed managed to get around Yubi finally. Apologize for missing that fight. And now the gap is slowly decreasing to Dalavan, as he might just kind of be on cruise control at this point. But Yubi's not going to give up. So now with this, I believe K-Morse, who has also pitted, is going to be another interesting one to look at if he needs to come in again, although I suspect he doesn't. Kaz, who also in, and Kev, who's now out as well. So both Kaz and Kev will be making an interesting strategy call by not taking tires. Of course, you always have to look to see if these guys are taking tires or not. I believe Kev opted not to take tires. I believe Kaz also opted not to take tires as well, so this leaves everyone in the top 5 left to make official pit stops. Ooh, as I say that, we do have a car off. That is Snaker. As soon as things were starting to calm down. And this could allow Flip to maybe get up back into 4th place. This Flip is closing in quite a lot on the Nissan. Yubi also battling Mike there for 2nd, to sort of help his efforts by. But even while still fighting, they've managed to drop the gap to Dalavan by about 3 seconds. So you see Snaker has much less fuel than Flip, so we can expect him in a little bit earlier compared to the Janetta. Of course, one thing to note is that Razy has been setting some of the fastest times of the day, times in the 1:35, so he is still very much one to watch. So now the biggest challenger to Razy's strategy is Kaz. He's pretty far back compared to Razy, although he is going to the end. K-Morse now also going a lap down, so lap car is going up all the way up to 9th for pit stops. Oh, Snaker gets it all wrong there through the chicane there. And that is Flip in the 4th place. So that's a very important spot for Flip. He could likely come out battling the Audis of Kaz and Kev. Although Snaker's still not out of it just yet. Of course, haven't really seen anyone be bulletproof today as Snaker goes pretty far deep himself. Mike hasn't been able to truly get rid of Yubi, although he's put some distance on him. Now, as Snaker actually decides to come in right now. So this is an important stop for him. We'll see if he takes fuel or tires. This could be the difference between him getting out ahead of Razy. Razy coming to the final turn now. Baker is out and away. It's Razy there just on the other side. And Sager comes out just behind Razy. Is he going to come out in front of Kaz? He will come out in front of Kaz, so this is important. So Snaker behind Flip Flip. So that makes him the 2nd car out on pit strategy. So he is ahead of the Audis, although gets very loose there. This could be Kaz's attempt to maybe displace Snaker there. Although Snaker now is getting the tires warmed back up. He's now currently sitting in 6th place. Well, behind them, that's Kev, who got past K-Morse not too long ago. And now this is a very, very important situation for Kaz to really catch up to Snaker and pass him. They'll have to make this pass on track. Oh, as a Snaker comes back in. Very strange circumstance. Snaker comes back into the pits. I wonder what's happened to that Nissan. I wonder if he didn't have enough confidence in that car making it to the end. But either way, this has been a disastrous pit strategy for him as he's fallen now all the way down now to 9th. Looks like he might be able to get out ahead of Joe. He's out now. I wonder if he wanted to take tires but didn't get the opportunity to. But either way, the strategy has not played out for him as now Mike coming in from 2nd place. This is really important for standing's sake as well. Depending on what he takes, he will get passed by Flip. But with Razy all the way down here, it looks like this might be a gas and go for Mike maybe. Or is he maybe deciding on taking tires as well? He's in there for quite some time. Razy's coming across the final turn now. With this misplay cost Mikey going off and out now. This is Razy, so it's very important for position's sake. And Razy has indeed passed Mike in the pit lane sequence. Which comes out just in front of Kaz as well. So what could have been for Snaker had he not made that 2nd pit stop? So now this puts Mike behind Razy, which is important for when Dalavan, UV, and Flip come into the pits. Now actually, Mike's going to be under a bit of pressure from Kaz. Ooh, as Kev is now in again. So Kev's strategy not playing out for him either. He is now down into 10th. I wonder if he's had an incident of his own. As there's UV now. UV into the pits. It'll also be interesting to see what he takes in comparison to everyone else. As Razy just now getting into Sector 3. And UV is out on a fuel-only stop, so this is very crucial for him. Since he decided to take fuel-only, UV will in fact come out ahead of Razy. But now this becomes very critical for Flip as well, because in order to keep up, Flip has to take fuel-only. This is Razy now on the front straight. So UV has gotten de facto third now, until his teammate and Flip decide to pit. Kev comes out in 10th. Still not really sure what prompted the second pit stop though. This elevates Joe and Snaker up into 8th and 9th. Snaker with his stop actually still ahead of Joe. Although we'll see if the Bentley has the pace to overtake the Nissan leader down the line. Oh, it's further up the field. We have a car around. Can't really see what that is. I believe that was no, it must have been Hondax. And that's the Audi of Kev, excuse me. I believe both of them had some sort of incident together. Both of them are a lap down, although this is a position on track for the final spot inside the top 10. Both Johnny and Daza are in. Must be for some sort of incident between the two of them, possibly. Now this becomes very dangerous for Flip, who is, or no, excuse me, not Flip, Razy, who's right there actually. Good work on Kev to release the position though. Now this could allow Mike to close in if Razy continues to get mired in traffic. Mike, I believe, has fresher tires than Razy, so it's not a matter of if, but rather when. Whereas it's Kev that goes pretty far off. You just see all the bumps there from the Audi there. Oh, Kev spins right in front of Mike in 5th place. Thankfully, though, no contact with anyone. I think that was just an air getting out of the way. Mike now on the charge for Razy's 4th place. And actually, Razy's still on the charge for UV, who's not too far up the track. So this is all still very much to play for the top 5. Further down the grid, Joe was able to overtake Snaker, although Snaker is coming back. Can maybe shut the door there. Joe fighting for 8th place. Looks like he's able to keep Snaker at bay for now. Well, maybe looking for a move around the outside, maybe gets a bit of a turn in there. Not quite. Snaker really closing up to the back of Joe there. Unable to find any place to pass though. As with just around 16 minutes to go, Dalavan is in the pit, so I'll call that right on time. So now, Crazy is all the way down here. So I believe no matter what Dalavan decides to do, I think he'll still be able to keep his lead. We'll have to wait and see how that cycles through. Mike's giving Razy a run for his money here. As both of them still gaining time on Yubi. That's actually the Porsche of Daza just closing in. As Dalavan is out and away, Flip still has to make a pit stop, so this isn't really a pass. So now that I think about it, where is Mike? Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong Mercedes. That's Honda's. I got both of the Mercedes mixed up. I thought that was Mike who was closing in. No, it's Kaz. Huh. I wonder what happened, though. So now Kaz is up in the 5th place. So something must have happened to Mike there. Well, we didn't see. But either way, this still benefits Razy, because now he barely has any challenges for 4th place, and he can go and take the fight to Yubi, who's not too far ahead. He's only right up here. And Razy has been able to put in much faster lap times than Yubi. Meanwhile, it's only a matter of time until Flip comes into the pits. And only 4 leaders left. We'll decide whether he can come out ahead of his teammate, or maybe somewhere between Kaz and Mike. Either way, this will still be a very decisive pit stop for him. He actually decides to go another lap. So, while we wait for this all to cycle, just give you the pleasant tunes of these engine noises. Ooh, we have a car off in the back. Might have hit the wall there. That's the Porsche of Daza. See yellow flags, although it seems to be cleared up now. Actually, you can see the gap there. That's the gap between Razy and Yubi in the final 15 minutes of this. And now Flip actually still able to keep the gap on Dalavan. I mean, even though it doesn't really matter too much. But Flip will have to come in this time. The gap is around 20 or so seconds to his teammate. So it'll be interesting to see if he decides to take fuel only, where this will place him. Flip is in. That puts Dalavan into the respective lead of this race. And Dalavan will likely go on to win it for Cadillac. But Yubi and Razy's pace is just too much for Flip. Both of them will get out respective 2nd and 3rd. Flip's still taking fuel actually, so he'll lose 5th to Kaz as well. Ooh, Yubi has a small incident there. This has allowed Razy to catch up quite a bit. Yubi still has his penalties, so Razy is in a respective 2nd right now. Flip is just now coming out of the pits. It looks like he will be battling Mike on pit exit. And he goes around there. He'll actually come out just ahead of K-Morse, who's had his own separate issues today. Still managing to keep it in 7th. Yubi now battling Razy for 2nd place. It is still a Cadillac 1-2, but now it is the Janetta of Razy giving the challenge for 2nd place. is Razy looking for a move on UV. Not able to get it done just yet. And now also K-Morse came out not too far behind Flip. Despite his damaged McLaren, he can still make a charge for it as well. Mike actually, who's just ahead of Flip, is kind of in a world of his own. So this is the closest battle on track right now. All Razy really needs to do is stay within that 2 second, or actually, yeah, 2 second gap. Well, now it's 3 seconds actually. So somewhere UB must have picked up an extra penalty. So now down to the last 10 minutes of this quite hectic Oulton Park race. It's not over yet. Razy's still looking to make the move. Actually makes the dive bomb on UV. Gives him the space. So UV very much aware of Razy's attempts to get past. See how long his efforts persist. He leaves the outside open for Razy. Close the door. Still not quite able to get the momentum that he needs. He needs to probably wait for maybe to make some kind of mistake to really get the charge there. He's very far deep, very cautious on the curb there. Very easy to spin the car around very easily there. As the final 10 minutes come down, give you a quick relay on the positions. Dalavan, who actually kind of got handed this spot really after both Johnny and Mike had instants while leading this race, to put that Cadillac in position to sort of run away from his teammate UV. Currently sits second, although he's likely to finish third with his respective time penalty. Although still a very good performance from UV, and if he does keep this up, he can still get the podium if he holds his time penalty over Kaz. Razy, who, so once again be out of this race, has pretty much did what Flip did last race and sort of hit while he wasn't around anyone so that he could run clean laps. That might be the strat this season. We'll have to wait and see. Kaz, after separate instances of his own, it won't be a podium, or well, he still has a slight chance if he can make up a few more seconds, but definitely sure he wanted to come out of here with a little bit more of a respective points gap, considering he is still currently the points leader. Ooh, as Kaz gets it all wrong there. Started talking a little bit good there. Just to make sure to get back on the track, though, as here comes Mike in 5th place. Mike, who's had a much better day than his teammate Hondax, as you can see there. He's had a couple of instances of his own, but still managing to keep it inside the top 5, all things considered. Flip, whose day has been up and down as well, probably just looking to come out of here with any decent position really, especially considering he had to start at the back of the grid. K-Morse, who's I'm sure is also just looking to come out of here with a decent finish, considering all the damage that he has incurred as well. Snaker with plenty of incidences of his own. Definitely could have been a lot better considering he was up there in the top 4 at one point. Joe as well, I believe just a lack of good pit calls that really hampered that Bentley team. They had the right idea, just couldn't really execute it on track. Hondax as well, he was definitely in it because he had pit early with Razy as well, so he could have definitely given a challenge. So speaking of challenge, there's actually Mike on Nguyen's for 4th place. This is a very important challenge as Kaz spins it, loops it 360 around 720. And that is Kaz down into 5th place. Actually 6th now. Will fall to 7th too as K-Morse passes him. So very detrimental mistake there for our points leader, as now this puts Mike into 4th place, Flip into 5th, and K-Morse into 6th. Although with K-Morse's penalty, he will likely finish behind Noyens in 7th still. I was just about to say, with Hondax, he was definitely in it too early until his incidents, which took him out of the race. Kev, incidences of his own also took him out of the running today, which is really unfortunate because the Audi guys were on a real dominant performance for a really long time. Toby as well, he definitely had some potential early in the race, but instances of his own, I mean, that's really just the story of the day, really. And Johnny, what could have been? He started on pole, but his race has just gone from bad to worse for the McLaren driver. And as it looked like things were sort of coming back together mid-race, he was in the top 10. But it seems like more penalties ensued have really hurt the Porsche. And it looks like another weekend to forget for the Porsche guys. And of course the only DNF being Jukebox after being punted into the wall. We'll have to maybe go back and see what happened with those earlier incidences, but now in the final 5 minutes, as UV has made a mistake somewhere, because he has fallen off the back of Razy and actually has a lot of damage, so UV, a lot of damage, and he is now down to 4th place as Mike passes him. Mike back into 3rd. Yeah, I wonder if he's spun somewhere, kind of like, we've seen many incidents happen today, but I guess it's another commentator's curse on me. And now with 5 minutes to go, UV has to nurse that damaged Cadillac home. He's got Flip just behind him. That's actually the lap car of Honda's trying to get by. So Flip sees the damaged Cadillac in front of him. This is his best opportunity to get even more points for that Ginetta team. They'll definitely need it after Lacuna. Flip sees the target and he makes he gets no remorse there. Flip now up into 4th place. K-Morse is still pretty far back, so UV. He pits now. Quite detrimental. But it looks like he is coming in the pit. Unfortunate. UV was running 3rd. Actually hits the wall again. UV was running a respective 3rd. And even misses his pits there. But an incident of his own has dropped him far down the field. So what was looking to be a Cadillac 1-2 is disintegrated really quickly. But now this puts the Ginetta of Razy into the hot seat in 2nd. Mike in 3rd now as well. Flip in 4th. Joe also going to get past UV there. Looks like a lot of damage repair in the final 3 minutes. Now, this is K-Morse, whose times have not been too great. Actually, has had an incident of his own, I believe. So now he is looking susceptible to Kaz behind him. Kaz putting in really quick times, actually, as UV has now come out ahead of Honda, so will likely finish in 9th place. This is now the closest fight on track, the last spot for the top 5, although with K-Morse's penalty, it looks like Kaz will just be able to get it anyways. Kaz still recovering from his spin with Mike. So now we are down to the final 2 minutes in this Oulton Park. It seems like it went by super quickly this time around. Time flies when you're racing, I guess. But Dalavan still with a very impressive 14-second gap from 2nd place. The one behind him relatively far apart, except for Kaz and K-Morse. Kaz can still potentially get a run for it, although he doesn't really need to. He just needs to stay within the gap to K-Morris and he'll be A-okay. Actually, you see K-Morris has lost pretty much his entire front bumper, so there's nothing keeping the front of that McLaren together. That can kind of tell you the day he's been having, and I don't know what will. Meanwhile, the man of the hour starts his last lap. It's been an unstoppable run for him, as actually, in the death of it, Flip has gotten a 1 second penalty. You have to be very careful with penalties on this in the last lap. It can be very, very harsh. I was gonna say, Galavan has been one of the few people who's not put that car into the wall today, so he gets the A+ on safety rating for that. But yes, thank you for all who's voting for their driver of the day as well. I'll give my 2 cents when this is all said and done. But Galavan just keeping it nice and easy, not gonna mess up anything. As ooh, that's Kev there in the background who stopped on the track. Let's put back up in gear though. I wonder if he just sort of stopped for the leaders, but here is your race winner, and broke the Audi streak. It is Galavan in the Cadillac to win at Oulton Park. And I must say, a fantastic performance from him to finally get the run that he needed to really set his championship sights. Razy going from nowhere in Rapuna to finishing second. Couldn't have asked for a better race weekend from him. Strategy worked out practically flawlessly, and Mike just picking up the pieces. He will finish last on the podium, and Flip coming across to finish 4th. K-Morris will finish 5th on track, although it'll be 6th when his penalty is incurred, so Kaz will finish 5th in the running. Joe looked to finish 7th, as we do have one last battle here. That's actually Snaker and UV. UV was actually going to attempt to pass Sneaker, I believe, but I think he just got pipped by the lap car. Okay, so that does leave Joe and Snaker, the last cars, on the lead lap. So UV will finish 9th after his disappointing end to the race. Hondax to finish 10th, Kev as well. 2 names we'd expected to see at the front today. Joe will finish 7th. Toby also at the back. Johnny, you all know what happened with him. And there you have it. It is Dalavan, Razy, and Mike, your top 3. Followed by Flip, Kaz, K-Morse, Joe, Snaker, UV, Hondax, Kev, Toby, Johnny, Daza, and Jukebox to round out the 15 drivers here today. Well, what can you say about that race? Couldn't really tell who was going to come down to until the very end, but one man who had it all under wraps was indeed Dalavan here today. So, I think you will get driver of the day for me for simply keeping it all under control while everyone else sort of had incidents of their own. But of course, we'll leave it up to you guys to determine who you liked today as well. But with this will definitely put a little bit of a shake-up in the championship standings, as Kaz will lose a little bit of his gap, and I suspect Dalavan will sort of improve on his position with that win today. Alright, so we'll see if we have any takers for interviews. Alright, so we'll just wait and see. Of course, give a moment for the drivers to cool off. We'll see if anyone is interested in talking about their race experiences. I guess, well, we wait and give my 2 cents on the race. It certainly was a very interesting scuffle for many of the drivers. It definitely looked like there were many different people who had what it took to win today, of course, though. To really win one of these GT3 races, you need practically a perfect race where nothing gets in your way and nothing happens to you. Of course, there were many drivers who I thought were going to make a really good impact this race. Just didn't really play out like we thought it did. But you guys can definitely comment on how you thought the race was. Of course, actually, one thing I should mention before we hop off the airwaves is, obviously we had an unfortunate driver passing this week of Fanta. Just like to give my 2 cents. I certainly hope that everyone in the, everyone who's dealing with his passing gets the utmost respect that it deserves. It's always unfortunate when we lose a driver, and it's definitely never a good case to, sort of take this sort of thing for granted. So, Fanta, I never really knew him personally, but I'm sure a lot of other Gavra guys did know him better than I did. So like I said, I certainly wish the best for him and everyone who's dealing with his tragic passing. He was definitely a racer through and through, and definitely deserves as much respect as possible from everyone. So anything we can dedicate our continued racing, and always make sure to never take that sort of thing for granted. So seems like definitely the sort of somber note to end it on, but it's understandable that everyone is a little bit tired and famished for everyone. So I apologize for not really getting anyone on the interviews. I mean, what can you do after a race like that where you had plenty of driver controversies, but I believe it'll all be settled relatively quickly. So we'll hopefully get back in the normal spotlight of things next time, so pardon my unprofessionalism and all that. So thank you anyways for joining us for this, for race 3 of the GT3 season. Of course, we have a Discord, Gavra Racing, where you can check out the latest news and info on all the things racing related. And of course, it's not just me, but plenty of other Gavra affiliates would be more than happy to kind of showcase every place around. Of course, we have racing every week, not just on Project Cars, but on F1 as well, if you're interested. And who knows, maybe our racing can inspire people around the world, really. We have no barriers of entry. But once again, thank you all for joining us here thank you for another celebration of racing, as we truly hope that you will join us next time. Because next time, I believe we'll be going to Long Beach. So keep that in mind, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you all, and good night or good day, whatever part of the world you're in.